I've killed men with my bare hands. I've built an empire from blood and silence. I've stared into the eyes of rivals as they took their last breath, and I've never flinched. For 15 years I was the ghost that Seoul's underworld feared but never saw coming. Kong Jin-woo the Viper. The man who turned whispers into funerals. But nothing, nothing in all those years prepared me for the moment I came home early from Busan and saw my wife move like death itself across our backyard. The late afternoon sun cut through the cherry blossoms, casting shadows that danced with each strike. And there she was, Aaliyah, my elegant, soft-spoken wife, the woman who hummed jazz while making breakfast, who read poetry to our daughter at night, spinning through a sequence of movements so precise, so devastatingly efficient, that I felt my blood go cold. And beside her, mirroring every strike, every pivot, every predatory shift of weight, was our 7-year-old daughter Gia. Their eyes held the same focus, the same killer instinct. I stood frozen behind the garden gate, shopping bags still in my hands, watching my entire reality shatter like glass. Because in that moment, I realized I'd been living with a stranger. And I'd raised a weapon I didn't know existed. My name is Kong Jin-woo, and for most of my adult life, I believed I knew everything about control, about power, about reading people and situations with the precision that kept me alive in a world where hesitation meant death. I inherited my father's organization when I was 23, too young, everyone said. Too impulsive. But I proved them wrong with strategic brutality and an intelligence network that reached into every shadow of Seoul's criminal underground. I didn't just survive. I dominated. And through it all, I kept my family separate. Sacred. Untouchable. I met Aaliyah 6 years ago at a charity gala. One of those events I attended to maintain my legitimate business facade. She was new to Seoul, a graduate student in literature, beautiful in a way that didn't demand attention but somehow commanded it anyway. Black, elegant, with eyes that seemed to hold entire universes of quiet strength. She didn't know who I really was. Or so I thought. We married within a year. She gave me Gia. And for the first time in my violent life I had something pure. Something worth protecting from the darkness I carried everywhere else. I gave them everything. A home in Hanamdong with gardens and security, private education, a life insulated from my work. Aaliyah never asked about my late nights. Never pressed when I came home with blood on my conscience. She created warmth where I brought winter. She was my peace. My redemption. My beautiful, gentle lie. Before I take you deep into this emotional story, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss powerful stories like this one. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? The moment I saw them training, really saw them, everything began to unravel. I didn't announce myself. Some instinct, some survival mechanism honed by years of navigating betrayal, kept me silent. I set down the shopping bags carefully, soundlessly, and I watched. Aaliyah moved through forms I recognized from my own brutal education. Krav Maga, Muay Thai, but also something else, something more fluid and lethal that I couldn't quite place. Each movement had purpose. No wasted energy. No hesitation. And Gia, our baby girl with her mother's eyes and my stubborn chin, followed with uncanny precision. Again, Aaliyah said, her voice carrying none of its usual musical softness. This was command. Authority. But this time, remember, you're not trying to hurt me. You're trying to stop me. There's a difference. Gia nodded, sweat dampening her hairline, and reset her stance. They moved together in a sequence that looked like a dance choreographed by war itself. Strike, parry, redirect. Gia swept low while Aaliyah shifted, then countered with a palm strike that stopped centimeters from our daughter's throat. Good, Aaliyah said. What did I leave open? Gia's eyes narrowed, analyzing. Your left side. When you committed to the strike. Show me. They reset. This time Gia feinted, then pivoted and struck at the opening she'd identified. Aaliyah smiled, actually smiled, as she blocked it. Excellent. You're thinking like I taught you. Combat isn't about strength. It's about seeing what others miss. My hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Who was this woman? I backed away slowly, my training overriding my shock, and walked around to the front entrance. I needed time to think, to process, to figure out what the hell I just witnessed. Appa! Gia's voice called out as I entered through the front door, this time making sure they heard me. She came running in from the garden, face flushed, looking like any normal child after playing outside. "You're home early." I picked her up, studying her face for what? Evidence of the killer I'd just seen? But there was only my daughter, giggling and hugging my neck. Aaliyah appeared in the doorway, slightly breathless, wearing athletic clothes. When our eyes met, something passed between us, a flicker of calculation in her gaze that I'd never noticed before, or maybe had chosen not to see. "You're back early," she said, smiling that warm, familiar smile. "I thought your meeting in Busan would run late." It finished ahead of schedule. I set Jia down, watching Aaliyah carefully. "What were you two doing?" "Exercising," she said easily. "I'm teaching Jia some basic fitness and coordination. She needs activities beyond her studies." It wasn't a lie. Not technically. But the omission was vast enough to hide entire secrets. "I see." I kissed her cheek, playing the role of returning husband, while my mind raced through possibilities, through years of interactions suddenly cast in different light. "It's good for her." That night, after Jia was asleep, I sat in my study staring at a glass of whiskey and realizing I'd been a fool. The signs had always been there. Aaliyah's unnatural calm during a home invasion attempt 3 years ago. She'd moved to shield Jia with tactical efficiency while I handled the intruders. The way she never flinched at violence in films, but analyzed it with detached precision. Her complete lack of curiosity about my work, as if she already understood it perfectly. How she'd appeared in Seoul with no family history, no deep connections, just a graduate program admission and a smile that made me stop asking questions. I thought she was running from a difficult past. Poverty maybe. Or trauma. I never considered she might be running from something else entirely. My phone buzzed. A message from Choi Min-jun, my second-in-command and oldest friend. *, we need to talk. Privately. Tomorrow. *. Min-jun never used that tone unless something was seriously wrong. The conflict wasn't just in my home. It was spreading. The next morning I met Min-jun at one of our secure locations. A cafe in Gangnam that we owned through 3 shell companies. He was already there, tension written in the hard line of his shoulders. "What is it?" I asked, sliding into the booth. He pushed a folder across the table. Inside were photographs, surveillance images, and in several of them, Aaliyah. 3 different sightings in the past month, Min-jun said quietly. "Meeting with people we can't identify. Very careful meetings. Very professional counter-surveillance." My jaw tightened. "You've been watching my wife?" "I've been watching anomalies in our security patterns." His tone was careful but firm. "Jinwoo, someone's been testing our perimeters, probing our networks, and the timing coincides with her movements." I stared at the photos. Aaliyah at a bookstore, Aaliyah at a park, Aaliyah at a restaurant. In each one, there was another person, different people, different places, but the same calculated distance in their body language. Who are they? That's the problem. They're ghosts. No digital footprint, no records, no identification. Professional ghosts. The kind of ghosts I employed. Or hunted. "Are you suggesting my wife is working against us?" Min-jun hesitated. "I'm suggesting you might not know who your wife is." I wanted to be angry, to defend Aaliyah. But I'd seen what I'd seen in that garden. And now this. Who else knows? Just me. For now. But if I'm noticing, others will too. Especially. He stopped. "Especially who?" "Especially your brother. Kang Sung-ho. My half-brother, born to my father's second wife. Ambitious, ruthless, and perpetually resentful that I'd inherited control of the organization instead of him. We maintained a careful balance. I kept him close but limited his power. He pretended at loyalty while building his own faction. Sung-ho's been asking questions," Min-jun continued. "About Aaliyah's background. About Jia. He's circling Jinwoo." Of course he was. Blood in the water was all Sung-ho needed. Over the next week, I watched the reactions ripple through my inner circle. Sung-ho showed up at my home uninvited, something he rarely did, with an expensive gift for Jia and barbed pleasantries. "Such a beautiful family you have, Hyung," he said, watching Aaliyah serve tea with impeccable grace. "It must be wonderful, finding someone so unexpectedly perfect for this life." The emphasis on unexpectedly was deliberate. Aaliyah smiled serenely. Family is everything. Don't you agree? Absolutely, Sung-ho replied, but his eyes were calculating. One must always know their family. Truly know them. Lee Sun-hee, our financial manager and the closest thing I had to an aunt figure, was more direct. She pulled me aside after a strategy meeting. Jinwoo, I don't question your decisions. But this situation with your wife. What situation? Her weathered face showed genuine concern. People are talking, asking questions about where she came from. In our world, mystery is the same as threat. Let them talk. If she's innocent, this damages her. If she's not. Son, he left the thought unfinished. Protect your daughter. That's all I'm saying. Park Tae-sung, head of security and a man who'd served my father, was the most disturbing. He approached me in the gym where I was working out my frustration. Boss, I did some digging. Off the books. About your wife's past. I stopped mid-strike on the heavy bag. And nothing. Absolutely nothing before she arrived in Seoul. It's like she didn't exist. People can have undocumented pasts. Not like this. This isn't poor records. This is professional erasure. The kind we pay specialists for. He met my eyes. She's one of three things. Witness protection, intelligence operative, or what? Someone like us. The words hung in the air like smoke. That night, lying in bed beside Aaliyah while she slept peacefully, I made a choice that would either save or destroy everything. I would test her. Not with accusations or confrontation. Those were tools for enemies, not for understanding the mother of my child. Instead, I would create a situation that revealed the truth. I would let the pressure build, let the threats surface, and watch how she responded. If she was innocent, if there was some reasonable explanation, she would come to me for protection. If she was something else, well, then I'd see what I was really dealing with. The next morning, I let slip to Sung-ho very deliberately, in a conversation I knew was being recorded, that I was concerned about security around Jia. That I'd noticed irregularities in Aaliyah's background checks. That I needed to be certain of my family's safety. I gave him just enough to weaponize, but framed it as my own concern. Within hours, the organization was buzzing. Whispers in Korean encoded language. The boss doesn't trust his wife. The boss is investigating his own family. Is there a threat? Is she a threat? I watched it spread like poison. And I watched Aaliyah. She noticed immediately, of course. You don't move like she did without being hyper-aware of your environment. I saw it in the slight tension in her shoulders when certain people visited our home, in the way her eyes tracked movements, in how she positioned herself between Jia and potential threats. But she didn't ask me about it. Didn't seek reassurance or explanation. She just prepared. I noticed new routines. Jia's training intensified, earlier in the morning now before I woke, but I had cameras I'd never told Aaliyah about. I watched her teach our daughter escape routes, hand signals, how to identify threats. She was protecting Jia from my world, or preparing her for something worse. The first test came in the form of artificial vulnerability. I staged a financial crisis, falsified documents showing that several of our legitimate business fronts were under investigation, that our assets might be frozen, that our comfortable life was under threat. I brought this problem home, showed Aaliyah the fake documents, and watched her reaction. Most partners faced with the loss of wealth and security show fear, panic, desperation. Aaliyah read through everything calmly, then looked up at me. How bad is it really? We might lose everything. The house, the accounts, all of it. She nodded slowly. What do we need to do? I need to focus on handling this. I might be unavailable, unreachable for periods of time. I was testing whether she'd run, whether she'd contact those mysterious people from Minjun's surveillance photos. Okay. She touched my hand. We'll be fine. Jia and I are tougher than we look. There was something in that statement, a double meaning that made my pulse quicken. That week I made myself scarce. Long hours away, late nights at the office. I had teams watching the house, watching Aaliyah, tracking her every movement. She didn't contact mysterious operatives. She liquidated her personal jewelry, pieces I'd given her worth tens of thousands, and opened a private bank account. She researched smaller apartments in less expensive neighborhoods. She updated Jia's documents and passport. She was preparing to survive with nothing. And she told Jia in a conversation my hidden cameras caught. Sometimes the people we love have to fight battles we can't see. Our job is to be strong enough to stand with them, or stand on our own if we have to. Do you understand? Jia, wise beyond her years, nodded. Is Appa in trouble? Appa is handling what he needs to handle. We're going to be ready for anything. I watched that video 3 times, something tight and painful in my chest. She wasn't running. She was standing firm. The second test was manipulation through Sung Ho. I authorized him to approach Aaliyah directly, with my knowledge but not hers, to offer her protection from my supposed instability. He invited her to lunch very publicly at a restaurant in Gangnam. I watched from a remote feed as they sat down together. Sister-in-law, Sung Ho began with false warmth. I'm concerned about you and Jia. Oh. Aaliyah's face showed polite interest, nothing more. Jinwoo's been under enormous stress, making erratic decisions. I worry about his judgment. He leaned forward. If things become difficult, I want you to know you have family who will protect you and your daughter. That's very kind. I'm serious. If you ever feel unsafe, or if you need resources that Jinwoo can't or won't provide. He slid a business card across the table. Call me. Immediately. I'll make sure you and Jia want for nothing. This was the moment. Would she take the offer? Align with Sung Ho against me? Aaliyah picked up the card, examined it, then set it down carefully. Sung Ho, I appreciate your concern, but my husband has never made me feel unsafe. And Jia and I are exactly where we belong. Her smile was gentle but her eyes were steel. Whatever pressures Jinwoo is facing, we'll face them together. As family should. Sung Ho's jaw tightened slightly. Even if that loyalty is misplaced? Loyalty is never misplaced when it's chosen consciously. She stood. Thank you for lunch. Please don't mistake kindness for weakness, or my silence for ignorance. I know exactly what I'm choosing. She left him sitting there, and I watched Sung Ho's face darken with frustrated calculation. But what struck me most was her phrasing. I know exactly what I'm choosing. She knew. She'd always known what I was, what this life was. So what did that make her? The third test came from an unexpected source. Lee's son, he visited Aaliyah privately, and this time the approach was maternal. My dear son, he said, sitting in our living room while Jia was at school. I'm going to speak plainly because I care about you. Please do, Aaliyah said. There are questions about your past. About who you were before Jinwoo. People in our world, they need certainty. They need to know everyone's story. Sunhee's voice was gentle. I don't care what you were running from. We've all run from something. But for your own safety, for Jia's safety, you need to give Jinwoo answers. Has he asked for them? He shouldn't have to ask. You're his wife. Aaliyah was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you know what I love about Jinwoo? He's never demanded I be anything other than what I show him. He's never interrogated my past or insisted I prove my worth. Her voice was soft but firm. The moment I have to justify my existence, to prove I deserve to be here. That's the moment this stops being a marriage and becomes a transaction. In this life, everything is a transaction. Not love. Not family. Those are choices we make despite everything else. Aaliyah met Sunhee's eyes. I understand the concern. I do. But I won't audition for acceptance in my own home. After Sunhee left, I sat in my office reviewing the recording, feeling like I was the one being tested. She was right. I'd never asked about her past because I'd been so grateful she never asked about mine. We'd built something in the present, in mutual understanding that some doors stayed closed. And now I was letting others pry those doors open out of fear. The fourth week brought the conversation I'd been dreading. I came home to find Aaliyah in the garden, the same garden where this had all started, tending to her roses. Jia was at a friend's house for a sleepover. We need to talk, I said. She didn't look up from her pruning. Yes, we do. I sat on the bench, choosing my words carefully. There are concerns. About me. About who I am. About whether I'm a threat to your organization. Now she looked at me. I know, Jinwoo. I've known since the second week what you've been doing. My blood went cold. What do you mean? The fake financial crisis. Sung-ho's recruitment attempt. Sun-hee's heart-to-heart. Even Min-jun's surveillance. I spotted his teams weeks ago. She set down her shears. You've been testing me. I should have known. Should have realized that someone with her skills would see through everything. Why didn't you say anything? Because I understood why you needed to do it. She moved to sit beside me. You saw me training Jia. You realized I'm not who you thought I was. And in your world, unknowns are threats. So who are you? Aaliyah looked out over the garden, the late afternoon sun highlighting the elegant lines of her face. I'm someone who walked away from a life I never wanted. Someone who found peace in soul in literature, in a quiet existence. And then I met a man who looked at me like I was something precious instead of something useful. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now. Because the whole truth, her voice caught slightly. The whole truth would put Jia in more danger than she already is. What do you mean already is? Jinwoo, the moment you married me, you connected your organization to things you don't understand. To people who operate in shadows that make your underworld look like daylight. She turned to face me fully. I left that life. Erased myself from it. But if certain people discover where I am, who I've become, what I've built, they won't just come for me. They'll use you and Jia as leverage. My mind raced. What people? What organization? The kind that doesn't have names. The kind that topples governments and disappears witnesses. The kind that trained me from childhood to be. She stopped. To be what? A ghost. An asset. A weapon. The words came quietly. I was born in Lagos, recruited at 8 years old, trained in 3 different countries, and deployed in 7 more. I've done things that would make your worst nightmares seem tame. And I walked away from it 10 years ago because I couldn't be that person anymore. The confession hung between us like a blade. And Jia. I'm teaching her to survive. In your world and in mine should it ever catch up to us. Because I love her more than I fear what I'm turning her into. Tears glistened in Aaliyah's eyes. You asked who I am. I'm a mother trying to keep her daughter alive. I'm a wife who chose love over duty. And I'm a weapon that refuses to be used anymore. I didn't know what to say. What to feel. Why didn't you tell me before? Would you have married me if you'd known? Would you have trusted me near Jia? She shook her head. We both built our relationship on strategic omissions, Jinwoo. You never told me the details of your work. I never told you the details of my past. We loved each other in the spaces between our secrets. She was right. God help me, she was right. The people you've been meeting, Min-jun's surveillance caught you. Old contacts. Warning them to stay away to keep my location buried. I've been trying to protect us. Her hand found mine. Everything I've done for this family. That conversation should have been the end of it. Should have brought clarity and resolution. But 2 days later everything exploded. I was in my home office when I heard voices in the hallway, Sung-ho's voice and someone else's. They were speaking quietly, but my office door was slightly ajar, and I'd learned long ago how to listen without being detected. Confirmed her identity, the unfamiliar voice was saying. She's Aaliyah Rose. Former operative for an international syndicate we've been tracking for years. Active in 6 countries, suspected in at least 12 high-profile assassinations and political destabilizations. And Jinwoo has no idea? Sung-ho asked. He's been running tests from what we can tell, but he doesn't have the full picture. She's been compromised. This is our opportunity. Opportunity for what? Remove the threat, destabilize Jinwoo's position, and consolidate power. The council is already concerned about his judgment in keeping her close. You eliminate her, claim you were protecting the organization, and you step into leadership. My hands clenched into fists. What about the child? Collateral damage. She's been trained too. Leaving her alive is a risk. The rage that filled me was incandescent. But training overrode emotion. I stayed silent, listening. I need guarantees, Sung-ho said. From the council, from your organization. If I move against Jinwoo's family, you'll have full support. We want Aaliyah eliminated. If that creates leadership changes in your organization, so be it. They were plotting to murder my wife and daughter. Sung-ho was working with external forces, likely intelligence agencies that wanted Aaliyah's past buried permanently. And he was using my own organization structure against me. I waited until they left, then immediately activated my emergency protocols. Calls to Minjun, to Park Taesung, to the lieutenants I knew were absolutely loyal. Lock down the house, I ordered Minjun. Nobody in or out without my direct authorization. Move Aaliyah and Jia to the safe room. Now. What's happening? Sungho's making his move. And he's not working alone. I found Aaliyah in Jia's room, reading to our daughter. The domestic normalcy of the scene, the two people I loved most in the world safe and peaceful, made what I had to say even harder. We need to move. Now. Aaliyah's eyes met mine, and I saw instant understanding. No panic. No questions. Just immediate tactical assessment. Jia, sweetheart, she said calmly. Remember the game Yama taught you? The special hiding game. Jia nodded, suddenly serious. We're going to play it now. Exactly like we practiced. The attack came at 2:47 a.m. We were in the safe room, a reinforced panic room I'd built into the house's foundation, equipped with surveillance monitors, weapons, and supplies. Minjun and a team of our most trusted people were positioned throughout the house. On the monitors, I watched Sungho's team breach the perimeter. 8 men, professional, equipped with suppressed weapons and tactical gear. But they weren't my people. The gear was wrong, the approach was foreign. These were the outside operatives. Stay here, I told Aaliyah, arming myself. No. Her voice was absolute. You go up there, you're outnumbered and they have superior positions. This is my house. And that's your brother leading men who want to kill your family. This isn't about territory, Jinwoo. This is about survival. She was already moving to a hidden panel in the safe room, pulling out equipment I'd never seen before. Weapons, tactical gear, communication devices. Where did that come from? I've been preparing for this since the day I married you. She efficiently loaded a pistol, checked the action, then secured it. Jia in the interior room, headphones on, exactly like we practiced. Our daughter, terrifyingly calm, nodded and retreated to the innermost section of the safe room. Aaliyah turned to me. I need you to trust me now. Completely. Can you do that? I looked at this woman, this stranger, this warrior, this mother who'd apparently been preparing for war while making breakfast and reading bedtime stories. Every instinct I had screamed caution, but she was protecting our daughter, and I was out of options. Tell me what to do. Her smile was fierce. Even the odds. What happened next was like watching poetry written in violence. Aaliyah accessed my security system through her equipment that integrated with mine in ways that should have been impossible unless she built backdoors years ago. She redirected feeds, created false corridors, turned my own house into a labyrinth. 3 coming down the east hallway, she said, watching monitors. Minjun's team is pinned in the kitchen. Your brother is hanging back, letting the professionals do the work. Coward, I muttered. Tactically smart. He's expendable to them. If this goes wrong, he takes the fall. She typed rapidly. I'm opening a path. You go left, I go right, we flank them and push toward Minjun's position. Suppress and redirect. Don't engage directly until we have advantage. You're not going out there. Jinwoo. She looked at me with absolute clarity. I was doing this when you were still in university. Trust me. We moved together through hidden passages I'd built, but she'd clearly discovered and improved. The sounds of suppressed gunfire echoed through the house. My people defending position, the attackers pressing forward. Aaliyah moved like liquid shadow. I thought I understood combat, but watching her was a revelation. Every movement had purpose. Every position was chosen 3 steps ahead. She wasn't reacting. She was orchestrating. We caught the first 3 operatives in a crossfire, not to kill, I noticed, but to disable and redirect. She wanted them alive. Information, she explained tersely, as if reading my mind. We pushed through the house, and I saw Minjun's shocked face as Aaliyah appeared from an angle that should have been impossible, taking down an operative who'd had him pinned. Boss, what the hell? Later, I said. Where's Sungho? He was moving toward the master bedroom, probably looking for. An explosion of sound from upstairs. The master bedroom. Aaliyah's face went pale. That's directly above the safe room. If they breached through the floor. She was already moving, faster than I'd ever seen anyone move. I followed, my heart in my throat, thinking of Jia in that reinforced room that might not be reinforced enough. We found Sung-ho with 2 operatives, setting charges on the floor of our bedroom. They'd mapped the house, found the safe room's location, and were going to breach from above. Stop! My voice cracked like a whip. Sung-ho turned, and in his eyes I saw no remorse, only cold calculation. You married a killer, Hyung. She's compromised everything we built. You're working with foreign operatives against your own family. I'm protecting the organization from your weakness. You let sentiment make you stupid. He gestured to the charges. This ends now. Her, the child, the whole problem. The rage that consumed me was apocalyptic. The child? She's your niece. She's a security risk. Trained by an enemy operative. You think she'll choose us over her mother? Sung-ho shook his head. You've already lost, you just don't see it yet. The operatives raised their weapons. And Aaliyah moved. I'd seen fast before. I trained with the best. But Aaliyah's speed was something else entirely. A lifetime of training compressed into seconds of devastating efficiency. She disarmed the first operative with a strike I barely tracked, used his body as a shield against the second's gunfire, then dropped him with a precision kick to the knee and temple. Both men were down in under 4 seconds. Sung-ho grabbed for his weapon, but I was already on him, my gun to his head. Don't, I said quietly. Don't give me a reason. You won't kill your own brother. You just tried to murder my daughter. My finger tightened on the trigger. Try me. We secured the house within the hour. Sung-ho and the surviving operatives were contained in the basement, the same basement where my father had once dispensed his own brutal justice. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jia was safe, sleeping finally in Minjun's wife's arms at a secure location across the city. And I stood in my destroyed living room, surrounded by my inner circle, with Aaliyah beside me and questions hanging in the air like gun smoke. Lee-sun, he spoke first. Who is she, Jinwoo? Really? I looked at Aaliyah. This was her truth to tell. My name is Aaliyah Rose, she began, her voice steady despite the blood on her clothes, none of it hers. I was recruited at 8 years old by a multinational intelligence syndicate, trained as an operative. I worked for them for 18 years across 4 continents. I've done things I'll never speak of. And 10 years ago I walked away. Walked away. Park Tae-sung's face was skeptical. People don't just walk away from that life. No. They disappear. I had help from someone inside who owed me a debt. They erased my existence, gave me a new start. I chose Seoul because it was far from my previous operations. I chose literature because I'd never been allowed to read freely. And I chose a quiet life because I was tired of being a weapon. And Jinwoo? Son, he asked. I didn't seek him out. Didn't target him. We met randomly, and I fell in love with a man who valued strength but cherished peace. Who built empires but protected family. She looked at me. I should have told you. I know that. But I was selfish. I wanted this life so badly that I convinced myself the past would stay buried. Minjun spoke up. The people tonight, who were they? Cleanup. The syndicate has a policy. Former operatives are either monitored or eliminated. I've been monitored from a distance for years. But when I married Jinwoo, when I had Jia, I became a liability. Too many connections. Too many potential leaks. She exhaled slowly. They've been waiting for an opportunity. Your brother gave it to them. I turned to the monitors showing Sung-ho in the basement. And him. Useful idiot. They approached him, played on his ambition, promised him power. He thought he was using them. Aaliyah's voice was cold. He was always expendable. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Park Tae-sung said what everyone was thinking. What do we do now? Now. I looked at each of them. These people who'd served my father, who'd followed me, who just fought beside my wife without fully understanding who she was. Now we make a choice. Aaliyah's my wife. Jia's my daughter. They are family. If you can't accept that, walk away now. No judgment, no consequences. Nobody moved. Son, he stepped forward. That woman just saved Minjun's life. Saved all our lives. I don't care what she was. I care what she is. She bowed slightly to Aaliyah. Your family. That means we protect you. One by one, the others nodded agreement. Something tight in my chest finally loosened. I went to the basement alone. Sung-ho looked up as I entered. His face bruised from Min-jun's less than gentle restraint. "Are you going to kill me?" he asked. "I should. You tried to murder my daughter." "I was trying to save the organization." "Shut up." I crouched down to his level. "You know what the worst part is? Not the betrayal. Not the ambition. But that you looked at Jia, a 7-year-old child, and saw acceptable collateral damage. That's not strength. That's not even cold calculation. That's just emptiness. And what are you? You've killed dozens. Never children. Never family. There are lines, Sung-ho." I stood. "You're exiled. Effective immediately. You'll leave Seoul, leave Korea. Min-jun will set you up with enough to survive, but you'll have no connection to this organization. No protection. That's a death sentence." "No. That's mercy. Because if I see you again, if you come near my family again," I leaned close, "I'll let my wife handle you. And trust me, I'm kinder than she is." I left him there, already arranging transport with Park. The foreign operatives were a different problem. Through some of Aaliyah's old contacts and my own diplomatic connections in the darker corners of government, we brokered a deal. The operatives returned to their handlers with a message. Aaliyah Rose was dead, buried in the attack. No body, but confirmed through enough channels that it would satisfy bureaucratic closure. In exchange, we'd quietly provide information about the syndicate's operations in East Asia. Enough to be useful, not enough to expose Aaliyah's true capabilities. It took 3 days of negotiation. 3 days of living in safe houses, of Jia asking questions we answered as honestly as we could, of Aaliyah teaching me about a world that operated in shadows beyond even my understanding. On the 4th night, in a secure apartment overlooking the Han River, after Jia was finally asleep, Aaliyah and I sat on the balcony in silence. "I was wrong," I said finally. "About everything. You were protecting your family." "No. I was testing you. There's a difference." I looked at her, really looked at her without the veils of assumption or fear. I built tests instead of having conversations. I let others' doubts become my own. I treated you like a threat instead of my partner. You had reason to doubt. I had reason to trust. I took her hand. You chose me, chose this life, chose to stay even when staying was dangerous. You could have run when things got complicated. You could have betrayed me to protect yourself. But you didn't. I love you. I love what we built. And I almost destroyed it because I couldn't accept that I didn't have all the answers. The realization was bitter. My father used to say that power is about control. But I've learned something these past weeks. Control is an illusion. The only real power is trust. Aaliyah was quiet for a moment. "Do you know why I fell in love with you?" "No. Because you saw me in that library reading poetry, and you didn't ask what I was running from. You asked what I was running toward." Her eyes glistened. "Everyone in my old life saw what I could do. You saw who I wanted to be. And I almost lost that by focusing on what you'd done instead of who you'd become." She leaned against me. "We both kept secrets. We both made mistakes. But we fought for each other when it mattered. That's what I'm choosing to remember." Over the next months, things slowly normalized or created a new normal. Aaliyah trained me the way she'd been training Jia. Not just physical techniques but awareness, strategy, the mental discipline of someone who'd survived by seeing 3 steps ahead. My organization grew stronger for it. Jia continued her training, but with a crucial difference: choice. We told her as much truth as a 7-year-old could handle. That her mother had a complicated past. That her father operated in a dangerous world. That we were teaching her to protect herself, but she would always have the choice to walk away from violence. "I want to be strong like Yama," she said one day. "But I want to be kind like you, Appa." I didn't feel particularly kind. But I held my daughter and promised to try to deserve that perception. The syndicate accepted our fiction of Aaliyah's death, helped along by carefully constructed evidence and Min-jun's genius for forgery. To them, she was a closed file. To us, she was teaching a new generation how to survive. Lee Sun-hee became one of Aaliyah's closest friends, the two of them sharing tea and conversation about topics I didn't fully understand, but which seemed to bring them both peace. Park Tae-sung trained under Aaliyah's instruction. initially skeptical but quickly becoming one of her strongest advocates. Minjun, always the strategist, worked with her to improve our security using techniques from her old world. My organization didn't just survive the revelation. It evolved. And I learned something profound. People don't change under pressure. They reveal who they've always been. Sung-ho revealed his willingness to sacrifice anything for power. My inner circle revealed loyalty that transcended bloodlines. Aaliyah revealed that love could be fiercer than any weapon. And I revealed my own capacity for growth, for admitting mistakes, for choosing partnership over control. 6 months later, I came home early again, this time without secrets or surveillance. In the backyard, Aaliyah and Jia were training, just like the day this all began. But this time I walked right up to them, no hiding, no fear. "Can I join?" I asked. Jia giggled. "Appa, you're too slow. Then I'd better practice." Aaliyah smiled, that full genuine smile I'd fallen in love with, and reset her stance. From the beginning then. Together. We moved through the forms as a family, imperfect, still learning but unified. Later, after Jia was in bed, Aaliyah found me in the garden. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How I almost lost this. How I let fear make me suspicious instead of curious, closed instead of open. But you didn't. When it mattered, you chose us." "Barely. If Sung-ho hadn't forced the issue." "Jinwoo." She turned my face toward her. "Stop punishing yourself for being human. We both made mistakes. We both kept secrets. But we fought for each other. We're still fighting. That's what matters. I want to be worthy of this. Of you and Jia. You are. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to grow. To change. To see me, all of me, and still choose love." Her hand rested over my heart. "That's more than I ever thought I'd have." I pulled her close, breathing in the reality of her. No more illusions, no more veils. Just Aaliyah, warrior and mother, my wife in all her complicated truth. "No more secrets," I said. "No more tests. No more running," she agreed. In the distance, Seoul's lights glittered like fallen stars. My empire, my world, my responsibility. But here, in this garden with this woman, I'd found something stronger than power. I'd found home. And I'd learned that the most dangerous thing in the world isn't a warrior or a killer or a criminal empire. It's a family that chooses to protect each other despite everything. We stood there together as night fell. Two people who'd walked through darkness to find light, ready to face whatever came next. Together. If this story moved you, if it made you think about secrets, trust, and what family really means, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what part resonated most with you. Have you ever discovered something about someone you loved that completely changed your perspective? How did you handle it? And if you want more stories like this, deep, emotional, powerful narratives about real human struggles, make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's struggling with trust, with secrets, with the complexity of loving people we don't fully understand. Remember, people don't change under pressure. They reveal who they've always been. The question is, are you ready to see it? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.